This is the Waupaca Area School District Board of Education meeting.
Very much. I appreciate everybody making time in their schedule to join us this evening. I appreciate Sandy in my absence of well-run meetings, so I will just say that very briefly, and I appreciate all that you've done with that committee. With that, we will start with the pledge, and I will ask Mark to take us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. With that, I will call this meeting to order. Let the roll call reflect all members are present with the exception of Mr. Fair. Mr. Fair is on the phone. Pat, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, with that, move for approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? With that, we'll move to public comment. As is traditional, we set time aside before every regular meeting for anyone from the public that would wish to address the board. We normally request that you keep your comments to about 3 minutes. However, we don't put a clock on you. So with that, is there anybody that would wish to address the board? Yes, sir. If you could identify yourself.
My name is John Hebrink. I'm wondering if you will be able to make any comments later as we get into the agenda.
We normally ask for public comment before we get into the agenda, so.
Okay, then in regard to the $350,000 that is being asked for by the city, I understand that we're trying to get more kids to be involved in the program. I believe that's the reason for that.
That would be part of the request. I can't speak on behalf of the city, but that's part of the request. Is there are some students in the district that lie outside of the towns and city that are currently contributing to the Park and Rec funds.
But the 350 would only be used for the students that are using it now. They're not planning on increasing their budget, are they?
I can't speak to the city's intent for the budget in the future, and perhaps after this, you're finished with any questions or comments from the city could.
If there's $1 million budget now for Park and Rec, if you get 10, 15, 20% more participation, will the budget then go up that much, and will they come to you and ask for more money? That is my question.
Okay. Other public and other individuals I would like to address the board at this time? Would anybody from the city like to respond to the question that was made?
I would just like to say that I will, I think if it's still okay, Ron, I will speak at that agenda item, and I may be able to address it at that time. To a point, if that makes sense.
Good. If you have a follow-up question at that point, we'll certainly allow that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, Diane Forsyth. I sent a letter to the board members. Did anyone not receive it? It was sent this morning. If not, if you didn't receive it, I have a copy that I could give to you, but hopefully everyone did. And I don't need to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else I would like to make comment at this point? Very good, then we'll move on. Start with the approval of the minutes. We'll start with the August 13th regular board meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Motion and second. Any discussion or corrections? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We'll move on to the August 19th special board meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We'll move on to communications. Start with the district administrator's report.
Okay, I have just a few things. First, I'd like to introduce, we have somebody in our audience who is actually shadowing Carol. I'd like to introduce Sandy Lucas. Sandy's in the back. Could you stand up, Sandy? Sandy is the new hire and will be our receptionist at the district office, taking on responsibilities with HR and working with the board. So just want to welcome Sandy.
Welcome.
At this point, as you guys are aware, I'm about 2.5 months into my transition plan here into the district. As I call it, the listening and learning tour that I'm on, and a lot of my time is being consumed with meeting people. I've had over 50 formal one-on-one interviews with people, including each of you, and well over 150 different people that I've met over that period of time. This past month, I just wanted to share some of the things. This isn't all of them, but some of the meetings and activities. I had an area superintendent meeting, so I got to meet all the superintendents in our county, and also had a superintendent meeting for CISA 5 and was able to meet the majority of those people that I didn't previously know. In regards to the union, the WTE, met with Corey several times, but also with Bill Freilich. I don't know what they're called now. It used to be UNISERV directors. Bill is, I think there's a different title and I didn't catch that. Our district office has a team, and so we call it the district office team. And they've met and will continue to meet. The Fox Valley Tech College is some representation from there. Andrew at the city gave me a little tour of the city office, and Sue Abramson with the library. And then we had some planning meetings with our tech coaches, working with Steve and trying to get a vision of how we're going to improve our communications as a district. And as you guys know, my theme this year and probably forever is professionalism and communication, because communication is always an area, and it shows in my interviews with everybody, an area that we can grow and improve. And I don't think you're ever a perfect communicator. So we're going to work on that as we continue to grow our culture. The focus is, what does it mean to be a professional in the school district of Waupaca? What are those behaviors of professionalism? What are those expectations that we have of each other as professionals? So it's not only those conversations that we have, but then as we live it out in our own behaviors and as we role model that to each other and to our students, obviously. Treating everyone with respect and dignity, no matter what their position is, whether it's an administrator or any other position, that every role that we have in our district is important and honored, and they significantly contribute to our cause and our mission. Some of you were able to attend the opening kickoff that we had with our staff a couple weeks ago. It appears like it went good, but maybe you guys could chip in any thoughts that you had. In my perspective, we've had a great start overall to the school year for 2019. Something else I just wanted to share, I am blessed to have so many thoughtful and giving people. I've had several different tours in our community, in our area, and they still continue. And I'm learning so much about, well, in meeting individual community members, but the town, the business, the city, some of the municipalities. So very thankful for that. At your table is a 9-page document, which is a summary of the interviews, the survey that you folks did with me, and then the follow-up conversation that we had about the survey. And the purpose is just so you all can see everything that I heard, because it was a one-on-one with each of you individually. And so I don't know, there may be some follow-up that us as a team, a governance team, want to have in regards to that. And we can talk about that at the retreat that we have coming up if we want to dig into that a little more, if we need to or not. I learned a lot from it. you'll see, I got to meet Wayne, and last month I got to meet Clifford. And we built a little bit of a relationship. Clifford invited me to come to the TV station, the City Win TV, and we worked out a plan where I'm going to be interviewed once a month, and we're going to shoot 4 different segments. So each segment will be 5 to 10 minutes, and it'll be a different topic about the school district. And then they'll air on the radio, and I don't know if they'll be on that station or not, but just in an effort to try to improve our transparency and our communication with the community. And then finally, last thing is, I really, and some of you are aware about, I really want to establish some regular retreat dates and times. And we'll have our second retreat on Thursday, and we're going to dig into our book study. And I'm going to work with Steve and Sandy on working with you to try to schedule. It's, I'm learning how hard it is to get all 8 of us together. It's not easy because we're busy people. So I'm just going to throw out there, and we can talk about it at the retreat, but maybe every Thursday, either a morning or an afternoon, at the start until I just want to have more dialogue to understand your expectations and what our norms are, and have those conversations about the chapters in our book study and my goals, talk about what are the goals, and then how are you going to evaluate me, talk about how we want to do that. And you've seen the list of every topic that I want to talk about, so.
I will share that after a meeting with Mr. Sari, it was the first time in a very long time that I've received a homework assignment.
I know. So just in regard to that, are we supposed to have like chapters? How many chapters would be?
1 or 2.
Oh, 1 or 2? Okay, great.
If it would be nice if we got through to chapter 1 the first time, if we could. If not, some of these chapters are going to be long conversations.
Yeah, I know.
But we're going to learn a lot.
It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 or 2 by Thursday. That's great.
Yeah, I asked the same thing,
Yeah.
Betty, but makes it feel any better.
No, it's good. That'll work.
But you've already read the book twice, haven't you, Sandy?
No.
Oh,
No.
stop it.
I am done, Ron, so I did do it,
You're
yes.
confusing me with Dale.
Yeah.
But I have a favor to ask. When you talk about Sandy, could you add the last name of the person? Because I wasn't sure whether I was getting an assignment.
You're right. I meant Sandy Lucas. Yeah.
Good. That's what I thought.
I will keep note of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
Unless there's
All right.
questions.
There are always questions. Okay, with that, we'll move on to, Section 8, board reports. We'll start with meetings attended or school visits. Does anybody have anything they would like to share this evening about? Yes?
I had the great opportunity to go out to the Chain Exploration Center. And there's a lot of stuff going on out there. But what I observed were the Suzuki classes, and I went to a violin lesson, and I went to a cello lesson. So I observed today in the cello class, they finally took the cellos out of the bags and the kids got to touch them. They weren't tuned yet, and they were learning how to hold the bow. They were learning how to position the cello, between their legs and hold it. They learned all the different parts of the cello. They could name them, and the instructors there from UWSP, from that Suzuki program. Both instructors were absolutely highly qualified. I mean, I was impressed with their lesson. You would believe that they had a degree in education. I mean, everything was there. The violin lesson, they didn't get to hold the instruments today, but I saw them stand in the rest position, stand in the bow position, and stand in the play position, and they were naming all the different parts, and they got their violins, and so it was really exciting. What I guess I was really taken back was the curiosity that the kids had for what they were doing. They were so engaged. They just wanted more. They wanted to do all this stuff, of course. In violin, they have 50 skills that they have to learn before they can even take this violin home to play. So it's a very structured, regimented program. And it was just wonderful to watch those kids and the eagerness. And I had a chance to see a couple of things just walking in the hall. I saw they were putting up a growing wall. So they're going to grow some herbs or plants or something, lettuce out of it. And they're going to mount that on one of the walls right out in the hallway. There's going to be a growing wall. And took a tour through the building, and it was just a great atmosphere, just like last year when I went. That was one of my favorite tours. Got to see the community garden. Looked very extremely healthy. A lot of Brussels sprouts, if anybody needs some Brussels sprouts. And I was happy to learn that there was one little section of the community garden where there's several families out in that area who are gardening on a little parcel of that, you know. So we got some people from the area that live out there that were tending to, you know, parts of the garden. So it was a very interactive type of project. So really impressed.
There were several things that I did. I went to the welcome luncheon, although I didn't go on the tour as you did, or which you gave. I thought it was just a lovely chance to meet some of our new staff, to sit and talk with them and hear about. They were so blown away by the welcome they were getting from the district that that was very, very gratifying. And a number of them are not. This isn't their first year of teaching, so they have experience with other districts, and they just spoke very highly of this. It was really a treat to spend time with them. I'm glad we had a chance to do that. I attended a workshop on the Suzuki program that was offered to teachers both at the CEC and who were at Chain. So the art teacher and the music teacher also attended it. It was delightful, and it was the same sort of thing. I was so impressed by the supportive structure that they have, so that when they're teaching music to a child, the first things that they learn, the next level, the next incremental step will include the basic component of the first and introduce a new component, and so it just builds. And I think it's so powerful that the families are involved to the extent that they are, and everybody gets a chance to be coached and learn to be a coach and a mentor for people. It's quite extraordinary, and I was interested to find out that they offer a program that's sort of like birth to age 4, and Stevens Point has something going on right now that I think is offered through their Head Start program. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but you know, that's an exciting thought for our community at some point. That it was a lovely day, and I certainly enjoyed meeting the teachers, and including Dale's son, Devin. It was a treat. And then lastly, I went to the Farm to Table dinner the other night and worked as a volunteer. And I spent most of the time there during the serving and helped with that. And we had FFA students who also helped with that and then helped with cleanup. Earlier in the day, we had, I want to say, is it National Honor Society or Student Council student? National Honor Society? Student Council students helping with setup. Our students received so many compliments and were such gracious, enthusiastic representatives of our community. It was lovely, and really held to their hearts that they wanted to contribute to the community. It was very nice. As it happens, the Farm to Table Dinner is a program of the Living the Waupaca Way group in town, and it was a fundraiser to raise money for the SNAP, the Double the Dollars SNAP program that's offered to people who use the SNAP program when they come to the farmers market. And so, and this is sort of a long introduction to get to the composting. Everything that was served at the dinner was local, except for salt, locally grown. And the composting, which included compostable plates and silverware and glasses, was given to the CEC. for their compost and for science experiments, because some of those materials compost at different rates. So they spent the night in my car, bags of compost spent the night in my car. I forgot about it though, until later in the day, and then I opened the door and thought, oh, but it was fine, the composting had begun. But it was a lovely event. Our students, the students from the district were just wonderful, and I had a great time too. It was excellent.
I attended the open house at WLC and at the chain, the CEC. I guess I needed my fix at being a teacher for so many years, that opening day when all the excitement and all those kids are just giving her and wanting to be there. And so, of course, I had to go first see my son's class and see how that was going. He was as fired up as the kids, I think, coming in, you know. But they were all bringing their supplies, and then I was over at my daughter-in-law's over at the WLC, and she had to use like several lockers outside of her room just because of all the supplies kids brought in. Wipes and Kleenexes and all that type of thing that the parents said, no, we want you to have that, we don't want you to buy that yourself. So, and all the kids were looking for their desks, and it was interesting, some of the kids that did come over to the CEC that weren't really good with being in a regular classroom, and the excitement on this one little boy's face because he really didn't like school. And so he's all fired up about it now. I talked to his mom and dad. The only problem with talking with moms and dads were I didn't remember some of their names, because they all said, Mr. Farrell, we had you as student. And I'm like, okay, let's see, 25 years ago, okay, good. You know, it's hard to remember. But again, to the principals, I give you guys a kudos for keeping all your teachers and everybody. I mean, it just looked like everybody was excited to be there and ready to start the year. And that only happens with good leadership. So congratulations on that to you guys.
Well, I attended the lunch, the welcome lunch for our new employees too. And I was blown away by that. I believe it's the second year that we've done that, is that right now? The second year that it's been done. And the teachers had all boarded a bus in the morning and had a tour of all the schools. Then it was at the boathouse, and we had a lovely lunch. And we were all broken up into different tables, and people from the community sat at each table. So there was a school board representative, and then someone from the community, and then some of our new teachers, which was a lovely smattering to give them a welcome of who we are as Waupaca, not just a Waupaca school district. So I sat at a table with 3 new teachers that were delightful, one brand new out of college and 2 experienced teachers. Both of the experienced teachers said they had never experienced anything like this before in the communities that they had come from. So they were very impressed with it. And I walked away so proud of our city and our school district, because I think in talking to the teachers, they said, you know, we've taught in a school district, but we've never really learned much about the community around us. And Waupaca did such a great job. So kudos to the chamber and to Mark for working on that, putting it together, because we truly were Waupaca proud that day. And they were just delighted to know so much about our community and the businesses and how we partner with so many of the area communities and organizations to be the best that we can be. They went home with a huge binder of resources and people they can contact for different things. And so it was just really impressive. And then the second thing was the welcome back breakfast. And I've probably been to, I don't know, 15 or 16 of those things. And it's always one of my favorite things because there's so much excitement in the room. You talk about the excitement of students, but at that breakfast, it's for all school districts and school district employees on their first day. And there's such an excitement when you walk into the Commons area and they're all excited and they're chatting and talking. And I mentioned the number that I've been to because I've never seen before, and having gone through a couple district administrators. Ron presented a presentation, a PowerPoint, but he showed who he was and showed his family, and he showed some pictures and, you know, brothers and where he came from and what he's about. And then interesting facts about himself, but more personal quotes that he lives by. And I think it kind of took people aback because it really showed a personal side of you. And when you talk about respect and dignity and things like that, I think that was really important for people to see, to know who you are and what motivates you and drives you to be who you are, that will help other people to do the same thing. So I just wanted to comment on that, that was really well done.
The credit goes to my admin team, because they counseled me and said, we suggest some things, and so I took their input.
Well,
We have a
kudos
talented
to them,
administrative team in this district.
because that didn't go unnoticed. And I think a lot of people were taken aback at your honesty and saying, this is who I am, and these are words that I live by. So it was a great day. So
Especially
thank
about
you.
Bob the dog.
Yeah. Like, oh, Bob Parker.
Bob the dog, yeah.
Oh, Bob the dog, and where's the diaper? Okay.
I hate to follow that up. But I
You
had
can present next month if you'd rather.
I had a wonderful afternoon. I went to the middle school and I met with Laura. And as we were talking, then the assistant principal came in, so I was introduced to him, and boy, was he bubbly. I thought that was pretty neat. I think they got a real nice team over there. I visited the music department, but I'll get back to that in a few minutes. I visited the science department. It was a great visit. I met a lot of new staff, and I don't remember a single name, but I met a lot of new staff. Katie Giles, when I went by her room, she motioned me in. I went in, and she had some stuff on the board, and she said, "Do you know where this is?" And yeah, I said, "It looks like my backyard." And she said, "Well, not quite, but do you remember the old middle school?" And I said, "Of course." And so she asked me a lot of other questions, and I said to the kids, I said, "Now you got to remember, I knew her when she was this big." And she agreed that I'd known her for that long, but that's beside the point. Then we went to the science department. While in the science department, I asked them about the removal of the greenhouse, and I was taken out to see it, and there was water all over the floor, which they were still trying to wipe up, because the drain is draining inward rather than going outward, so they got some work to do there yet. And then I left and went to the music department again, and they were working on a patriotic song. And I'm not sure what patriotic song they were working on, because they weren't, it was the 6th grade band, and they weren't right in tune with the teacher. And so she said, "How did you like it?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to make a promise to your students. In 2 weeks, I'm coming back, and I'll bet you I'll know what that song is." So it was a fun day. So thank you, middle school.
Abigail, anything you'd like to report, or I don't mean to put you in the spotlight, and if you don't have anything, that's fine.
No, I visited the high school today.
How was your
Wonderful visit.
visit?
Just the best part of my entire day so far.
Can I ask you a question? How are you doing with the earlier morning?
Oh.
Starting earlier?
It's a work in progress.
Is it, what are the kids?
I think the general consensus is it's not a big deal.
Oh, it's not.
Like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's-
so especially since we ended last year with the early start this year, it's just what's happening. Like, it's not that's not what they're focusing on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to upcoming meeting. Pat, did you have anything? I don't realize it's...
Well, thank you, Steve. Actually, I did make a visit, but if you don't mind, I'll report on that on Thursday at the retreat, or even in October.
That would be fine. Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. With that, we'll move to upcoming meetings and other activities. September 12th, we do have our board quote-unquote retreat and/or report on our homework, as I'm more likely to refer to it as. October 8th, regular board meeting at 5:15 in this room. October 30th, the WASB Fall Regional Meeting. If anybody is interested in attending, if you would please let the district office know, and we can coordinate things then. In November 1, we've got the WASB Legislative Advocacy Conference. With that, we'll move on to...
Can I
Just
here?
point
after the agenda was done, just so we can mention it, is the budget hearing was also, after this agenda was put together, we did finalize that the budget hearing will be October 30th as well. You all have been sent the notices already. I think Steve's got a copy in front of him. But it was after the board agenda was put together.
At a time that would conflict with the,
Yes.
okay.
5:15.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item C under 8, and that's the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee held a meeting on August 30th, 2019. There were 2 items on the agenda. One was the discussion of Fund 80 and the proposal that the consideration that the board is giving to the Fund 80 proposal that the city of Waupaca has brought forward. You can see that the minutes of the meeting, which have now been posted online, in the board meeting materials for this meeting. So all of this will be there, and it includes copies of the information that was projected on screen when Andrew Whitman and Aaron Jensen presented, with the exception of the sort of scatter map that Aaron had presented, because we didn't have, that was drawn from online. We had many representatives from the general public at the meeting. Some of you are here tonight again. And it was a lengthy meeting, and I would reiterate what the city's request is, and then present the motion that the committee brought forward. So the city of Waupaca has asked the school district of Waupaca Board of Education to implement a tax levy via Fund 80 that will be used to support the city's Parks and Recreation Department programs. The request is for approximately $350. $350,000, yes, sorry. And this is an estimate because the city is proposing that the actual amount would be based on actual program expenses in the year that follows the expenses occurring. This was a committee meeting, so no action was taken. I do want to mention that both Mr. Fair and Mr. Hackett recused themselves and left the meeting because of a conflict of interest. Mr. Hackett serves on the current City Council. Mr. Fair serves on the Park and Recreation Department, the Park and Rec Board, and his wife also serves currently on the City Council. So for those reasons, they recused themselves and left the meeting before the discussion occurred. There were a variety of, there were community perspectives, City of Waupaca perspectives, school district staff perspectives, and then discussion among committee members at the meeting. But ultimately, we ended that portion with a motion by Mr. Felt that Mr. Polvitsky seconded that the committee forward the city's request for a Fund 80 levy in the amount of $350,000 to support parks and recreation programs to the board for consideration without a recommendation. And so this motion carried unanimously among committee members on a voice vote. So it is now, as you see, on the agenda for discussion by board members. The second item on the agenda was monthly financial status reports. And we had reviewed templates and reports from other districts at one point that we'd like to see an operating statement and a balance sheet. And Mr. Hyatt shared with us what Skyward is able to generate, which turns out to be a highly detailed and somewhat complex report. So Carol has been working diligently to see how we might accomplish this goal, and reached out to Skyward to find out, if the kinds of reports, and if you want to go online and look at Kenosha School District's financial reports, that's been sort of the template that I've had in mind for at least the operating statement. They have a 15-page report. It's page 15 that offers the summary. Anyway, she contacted Skyward, confirmed that Skyward itself, acting alone, you can't format a report like that from Skyward that Skyward could generate. But they did say they could work with the district. The district would need to buy another piece of software that would cost under $500 called Crystal. And that working together with Skyward and Crystal would be able to generate reports that would have a very clean format and make the information accessible to the board and to the public. So we're still in the process of investigating that. It would run about $2,000 to make that investment for Skyward to develop the template. And then we would pay the additional $480 for Crystal. So that's being considered now as an option. Once that happens, I think Crystal, talking with Carol, would give us the ability to do balance sheets that would also be more typically configured than Skyward allows for right now. Without the business office staff having to do a convoluted transfer of data from Skyward to spreadsheets and those kinds of things, that this would be a pretty direct way to do it. So I'm actually quite encouraged by that, and thank Carol for your service.
And I think if we research Crystal, if it's at all like the Crystal Reports program that I'm familiar with, we may not need Skyward's full assistance that they are projecting that cost on.
So we might start by purchasing Crystal. And
we might want to take a look at it and its functionality first to see, once data is downloaded, whether or not we need Skyward's assistance or not.
To do that,
And
okay.
that was somewhat of what I said to Sandy as far as what she was talking about balance sheets as well. And I said, you know, it was $500 for the Crystal report, and then it was going to be like 6 to 8 hours for them to put together a program to do the one report, which is like 20 pages long. And then I said, let me take a look at it and see if I can either go to class or whatever, so that other reports, we would not have to rely on Skyward to develop that. Hopefully I would be able to develop those in the future.
I would encourage you to take a look at that, because I think that's entirely possible.
And that you might actually be able to do it without Skyward, an investment in Skyward even developing the first report.
Correct. So, okay, we'll wait for an update on that once you've taken a look at the software. With that, we'll move on. Have you completed your?
I have,
Okay.
and I will say that the minutes reflect that we had anticipated having reports, even if it's not in the correct format, by this meeting. But when Carol and I were talking about the reports for the balance sheet, I think until we get something in a more manageable form, it would have been counterproductive. So I'm the one who said, let's not do that this
Okay.
meeting.
Very good. So the committee has moved the request to fund 80 to the entire board,
Yes.
and we will deal with that at this point. Pat, unless you are going to be speaking, could I ask you to put your phone on mute? We were getting a little feedback.
Okay.
And then when you do wish to speak, obviously, just pipe up enough that I can hear you. Nope, not you.
I accidentally.
Let's,
We'll call back.
okay. Well, no, we're calling now.
Oh, we're gonna call.
Excuse me.
Well, it got a little better because I texted him and I told him this feedback was coming, so I.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Basic law technology.
Will there be recusals at this meeting also?
Yes. Well,
Maybe.
there will be a request for any.
I'm
Are you there?
Sorry about that, Pat.
That was
It's my
user error
fault.
on our end, Pat. Sorry about that. Okay, with that, we will get into the Fund 80 request. I will ask if anyone has a conflict of interest.
Well, Steve, you know that I have a conflict of interest, and I will abstain from any vote on this issue tonight.
Okay.
I will also.
Okay. As to full recusal, there is not specific precedence on an elected official necessarily having to leave a room. They can listen to the conversation, but if there is a conflict of interest, should not be participating. So, are there any other conflicts of interest with regard to this matter? Okay. There being none, Ron, you said you
Yeah,
had requested the city to speak?
right, and Aaron's here and prepared, so I'd like to give the floor to Aaron, if that's possible.
Thank you. So I'm going to stand back here. It's a pretty tight room, if that's okay. So-
Actually, if you could move up a little bit so that Pat can hear and,
Where would you like it? In here, up here?
Maybe as
Pat-
close to the
Pat, can
phone
you-
as you can get.
well, Pat, can you hear Aaron?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can hear Aaron.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys for, first of all, allowing me to be here and speak. Thank you to everyone who obviously has interest in this matter. I've probably spoken to many of you a lot about this over the years. I did just want to share my kind of unique perspective on this. As many of you know, and maybe some of you don't know, I was the Park and Rec Director when this proposal first came forth in 2016-ish. Then was the Athletic/Activities Director up until about a week and a half ago, and I'm now standing in front of you as the City Administrator. Since the Finance Committee meeting, Ron and I have had some conversations. Our staff, Kathy and Andrew, have had conversations. And a lot of it was about some of the questions that were asked in that meeting. One thing that became apparent was that there was a lot of questions that are not yet answered as it feels from the townships. And that's one thing that we worked on over the last week. Kathy and Andrew worked together to prepare a special revenue budget that would be Fund 80 eligible items as we understand it by the DPI. Now, we may sit down with Carl and Carl may say, you know, our auditors may disagree with this line item, that line item, or Carl may know from his experience that some of them may not work either. That brings me to the next point, is that I think I'm going to take us back through a little bit of a timeline on this, and I won't take more than 5 minutes, I promise. But when this was presented, actually I'll go back to 2013. In 2013, we had a strategic planning process with the Park and Rec Department that was supposed to take us through the next 5 years. In that process, one of the top priorities was fixing our equity issues within our youth programs, which is what we're talking about here today. We didn't have a good solution until 2016, and some of you may argue that it's a good solution or not, but it was a solution that we came up with in 2016, and that's why we're talking about Fund 80. So at that point, we went around to the townships, we educated them on what we thought would be a scenario that could work. Fast forward a little bit to 2018. Last year we had a strategic planning process as a part of the school district's activities department, and it came up again saying we need to do something to fix this equity issue within our school district. So 2019, as we sit here today, going on 2020, so we're going on about 7 years since this first came up in an actual planning process. What I want to share with you today is that, first of all, we want to be there and be available to answer any questions anyone has, whether it comes from the townships, whether it comes from the school board, whatever that may be. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can through this process, and that goes for all of our staff. I know it goes for the school district. But going back to one thing we haven't really done a whole lot of is we haven't had the opportunity, or maybe we just haven't done it, is just sit down as staff and talk about some of the things. Every time we get together, we talk about it in an open meeting forum, and we don't sit down with possibly myself, Ron, Kathy, Carl, and say, is Fund 80 the best option? Now, do I believe Fund 80 is the best option? I do. Do I know that Fund 80 is the best option with 100% certainty? I don't. And am I wanting to find a solution to this equity problem, whether it's Fund 80 or whether it's something else? I do. And I know that we're better off trying to figure that out together than we are separately without maybe the proper communication needed. I think the moral of the story is that we now know, with some of the information we've dug up, that we have a discrepancy of about 46% participation in the areas that are less costly, and we have 9% in the areas that are more costly. And that equates to about 100 kids within our school district that maybe, it would suggest, maybe are not participating because of that. One thing that we can all agree on, I believe, is that we want all the kids in our school district to be able to participate. How we get there is clearly been up for debate. When we looked at it, when this proposal first came forward in 2016,
16, it was not, you know, I was a 25-year-old director of Parks and Rec at the time, and we did not look at it as a township segregation city thing. We looked at it as I was at Swan Park or the rec center, and I knew X family and X family and X family were participating in our programs, and I knew X family and X family weren't there with us because they may not be able to afford it. And that's really what we're trying to do. What I would ask, speaking on behalf of the city now, I would love to see the board support ongoing meetings over the next X amount of months between school staff and city staff to discuss, to keep Fund 80 on the table and discuss it as an option, because it, like I said, if you ask me, I think it very well may be the answer, but knowing that it may not be the only answer. But we haven't put ourselves in a situation, I don't believe yet, to know that for certain. So that would be my ask, is that if you guys, as a school board, would entertain supporting those types of meetings and conversations and negotiations, including Fund 80 and other options moving forward, that is something that would be a priority for us. And knowing the priorities and missions of the district, I think would fit well with that as well. So I won't babble anymore, because I said I'd keep it short, but that's really all I wanted to communicate here today.
So, go ahead.
No, please.
So in basis, the request at this point is being withdrawn in light of the concept of having more dialogue. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe, you know, this is not the only thing we're all going to work on together. Okay, it's a very important one, I feel like, but it's not the only thing. And judging by some questions at the last week's meeting, I want to make it known, and we as a city want to make it known, that we want to work together. We want to answer any questions that you feel you may need answered, or anyone feels you may need answered. And maybe we come forward at a separate time with option A, option B, option C. Maybe we come forward and present those into townships, so on and so forth. So yes, long answer, the request for a specific amount for Fund 80 is not on the table as far as we're concerned.
I would like to respectfully submit, if dialogues are going to continue, you had mentioned the city and the district. I would like to respectfully submit that it might be beneficial to include representatives of the townships as well in that dialogue.
Absolutely.
I know you do have some representatives on the Park and Rec board from the townships, but if there's going to be a dialogue with regard to any, for lack of other term, ultimate buy-in of the district at large, it should include, in my mind at least, the townships as well.
Yeah, and I think in the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish overall, I think that is a very reasonable request, and we would like to do the same.
And that's what we've been planning on. Mm-hmm. If I could talk, Aaron and I have been talking, well, since that last meeting, and talking about what's the best way to move forward. And we really need to find out the answers to the questions that our municipalities have. And that, like Aaron said, that's a big part of it. In my mind, the second part is then this continual planning with the input and involvement of our municipalities, and look at what all of our options are and weigh the pros and the cons. And I swear to Aaron that we're going to come into this with an open mind and be serious about all the options, and focus on collaboration. I don't have all the answers, Aaron doesn't have all the answers, but we know that we're committed to the same thing. We want to find a solution that will work for everybody. And it's not just this issue, it's a bigger global issue. You know, our enrollment is something that is apparent to me that needs some attention. Every student brings in revenue from the funding formula, and it would be, working with Carl, our vision is to grow our enrollment. And in order to do that, We need to work with the city, we need to work with the municipalities, we need to work with the businesses in our community and attract people to move to Waupaca, attract people to want to live here. Being new, it's obvious this is a great community. I tell everybody it exceeds and it continues daily to exceed expectations in so many ways. Why would somebody not want to raise kids in Waupaca? It's the best kept secret in the state of Wisconsin, in my opinion. And so, working together, I'm very confident that we can attract families to want to live and raise their kids in our community. This is one issue that, whether it's the city of Waupaca or one of the townships or municipalities of our school district, it's a great place to be. So we're committed to working together collaboratively to this one little issue, which is an important one, as well as the big picture with our businesses and getting families here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, I was going to suggest, as you did, that the municipalities be part of the conversation too. I think it also could be important to build listening sessions in. So all along the way, there's opportunity for community involvement and input, and to hear what the progress is in terms of solutions and the different options that you're exploring. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
On everybody's part, inclusiveness.
Well, thank you, you guys, as a board, for listening and putting the time and effort you've put into this point. And I'm sure we'll continue. So thanks.
I would just like to make sure, though, that we have 2 municipalities that are already paying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I would like to make 3. That's right, city. But I would like to make sure that the town of Waupaca, Farmington, and Dayton.
And the city.
Right. The important thing is to get those towns that aren't involved right now also represented. Because even though Lanark is small, Sheridan is, Scandinavia is a small piece, I believe, correct?
Yeah,
in that area.
yeah.
We need them all.
The challenge with that is having someone from one of those townships, since the township itself is split between school districts.
I do understand that, but somehow we need them.
It could be a representative that's a resident in our district. I don't know that we can specifically ask representatives of those townships, because they would have
I think if
2 different districts that they're dealing with.
I think if Aaron went to those town meetings, and I'd go to our town meeting from time to time in Lanark, and we have enough representation there that I think if you presented it this way, and we're trying to work as a group, then I think we would start to see more of the people coming here, more representation from the other municipalities.
Yeah, and I think that the 2 big ones that we're talking about, as we showed, I think, on our little graphic that Sandy mentioned before, would be Linden and Lanark, would be the 2 with the most population by far. The others do have a couple of kids in them. I mean, we're willing to reach out and work with anybody, is the moral of the story. So yes, how to effectively do that, we will try to be as effective as we can in reaching out to everyone that's involved.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Anything else? Yes.
One more thought, and that is in part driven by a question that I received during a down period where we took our comfort break. And somebody said, well, what else might the district approve as a fund day to use at some point? And perhaps it would be worthwhile talking about how we will proceed in terms of evaluating whether or not a request for fund aid is something that we'd like to do, whether it's designing, talking about criteria that we'd be looking for. Obviously, the state has certain ones, but they're very broad, and they don't necessarily include considerations of staff time that might be needed to support a program. Anyway, just a thought.
Good, very good. Anything else? Thank you very much. We'll move on then to the monitoring schedule, which was, do you have a link from the board packet? Obviously, as is on the agenda, the first item is staff retention and recruitment for this month and the budget for October. We have the opportunity to obviously amend this. Ron, is there anything you'd like to discuss on this?
Well, I believe that this is a living document that should probably be reviewed annually. To be honest, Mark and I, between the two of us, put this together, okay? We haven't had an opportunity to have enough time with the full admin team to dig into the weeds and all of this, but I didn't want...
You can clear a room, can't you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's good news.
So I guess, as I look at this, I see opportunities to make changes. Some of this are things that I believe, and Mark, that are topics that should get discussed at the board level. We struggle because we want these reports to be data-based, and we want them to be things that are measurable. And we struggle because we looked at the ends, our policy governance system, and the ends has 4 ends. And the first is the district's mission and vision, and the second is the academic achievement, and then citizenship, and finally responsibility. And it's really difficult to measure some of that at a global level. So I think what we're going to want to do as a governance team is work with administration in a workshop type of a setting, and look at our ends and try to, whether it's through tweaking, other conversations, but try to make them measurable and incorporate the work that you folks did a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, with the strategic planning work that took place, and to honor all of the effort that the community put into the strategic planning process, and find a way to incorporate our ends into that strategic planning and into finally this monitoring schedule. And that's something that just Mark and I can't do, or the admin team can't do. We need your voice in that. And it'll probably be a process that at some point this year we have to take up. So, staff, in a moment we're going to have Mark present a little staff retention recruitment presentation to give you an aspect of where we've been, where we're at, where we're headed. October budget, that's Carl, and at the end of that month we'll be setting the budget. We're looking at summer school in November. By that time all the data should be reported back. The target-based grading, which hits all 4 of our ends, also is really focused on mainly the academic achievement end piece, and that's some great work that's going on in the district by our teachers and our coaches. And so we believe that should be a highlight. We included the budget again in January, including grants and food service. And the only reason I haven't had a chance to talk to Dar about this, but in my previous district, we would have a food service report every January and every June. And it would just talk about the meals per labor hour and other pieces of data to show the level of effectiveness and efficiency that takes place. I'm not saying we have to do it here, but it's just a suggestion that we put out there for you to consider. And we have a lot of data points with college and career readiness. We would like to put a report together for that. I think maybe February may be the best. We can move these around. We're looking for your input too. This isn't administration, this is what we do, but it's just an idea. The technology update for March, we're looking at long-term planning and sustainability. As we invest in the technology, we need to have a plan in place for the replacement cycles. And that needs to take place, and I don't believe we have that at this point. Student staff wellness, past, current, and future. Teacher showcase, teacher appreciation, that is something that was there before. And then in June, special population updates, that working with the pupil services program. Erin started a co-curricular audit and planning and getting feedback on that, and then school improvement plan results for July. So that's just a summary of what we're thinking about and want to get your input and feedback.
Is there any input at this time, or would the board prefer to deal with this at one of our retreats as to more discussion of the types of things we would like to potentially see?
I just have a comment that there are other portions of the governance manual, and they include things like executive limitations, in addition to the ends, board-staff relationship, and under executive limitations, there is budgeting and forecasting. So there, just a thought to look at the governance, the policy governance manual, and look at where, because we really need to be monitoring, in my mind, all of that, and that's for a future discussion. But there are other policies that may have more, or at least as much, that will have weight, that we'll be monitoring at the same time. And maybe just update the list to include these. Happy.
Well, I'm happy to have you help, Sandy. I'll take all of your input. We focused on the ends because that's a big part of the monitoring, from my understanding.
Yep.
And remember, I'm a novice when it comes to the totality of what is policy governance compared to non-policy governance, that a board does. And I'm learning, and I'll be working with Dave Peschel to help kind of behind-the-scenes counsel me with that topic. So I'll take all the help I can get, Sandy.
Very good, thank you. Moving on, school calendar, need to set the graduation date. Recommendation was in the board packet, which indicated that there was no conflict on Sunday, May 31st, or Monday, June 1, or Wednesday, May 27th. Traditionally, as everyone knows, under board policy, the time and date which needs to be codified by the board is traditionally the Sunday before the last day of school. That this year would be Sunday, May 31st, and there's no conflict at that point in time with the other schedules, be it track, etc. With that, I'll open it for any motion or discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the graduation date of May 31st at 2 o'clock.
I'll second.
And there's a motion and second discussion.
Steve,
Yes.
is that Memorial Day weekend?
Memorial Day in 2020 is May 25th.
Okay, thank you.
So it would be 6 days later.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? I only knew that, Pat, because I knew somebody would ask and I looked it up.
Well, good. I'm glad that I still have some influence.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and second. Should be just a voice vote. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very good, thank you. With that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a request for land donation. In that, the bank on which I am on the board has also been in discussion with the city and the VFW on potential locations for a memorial. I will recuse myself so that there's no appearance of any conflict of interest. And so with that, and to do so, I will turn it over to our clerk to take this.
Well, okay.
If you would, please.
Thank you very much.
If someone would let me know when the discussion is done.
Okay.
Where are you going to be, Steve?
I'll just be back here.
Okay.
So there's a letter in front of us that, for those of you that might not have had a chance to read it, if you'd like to, we'll take a moment to read it.
Cindy, are you still there?
Yes, Pat, I'm giving the group an opportunity to read the letter
Oh, okay, sorry. I know the letter you're referring to. I read it.
to the Chair of Buildings and Grounds.
Since I'm a member of the VFW, should I recuse myself? No, I'm only kidding. But
Are you a member?
yes,
It's up to you. You think you should?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
So the request from the VFW is they've been searching for properties to develop a memorial and park. They've been looking for several years, and their intent was to keep it within the city limits, but now as they broaden their search, they've realized that one of our properties would be beneficial to them, and that is the school, our school forest that's out at the edge of the W-A-U King Trail. That many people use for a memorial, and the VFW is hoping that the school board would consider donating an acre of this so that this memorial could be placed along that walking trail. They would work with the school district to bring something educational to the district concerning this, and historical events and things would take place at this memorial. They would employ technology and things, webpage and educational things to enhance this. UW Stevens Point would also be part of this, as would their Natural Resources Department, to help develop this and a parking area that would access it. And so they're hoping that the school district would allow this to take place. That's a summary of what we're doing here, right? Okay, so, are we,
I guess it'd be up for discussion.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm just curious, is there a particular site that they're looking at, or is it kind of up in the air where this thing would be placed? So I would have a question, the exact placement, and the second would be is what kind of things are they going to build on that, or what it's going to look like? I'm not sure. Is it just going to be a bench? Is it going to be a plaque? Is it going to be a building?
Does anybody know?
I have no, I mean, all I know is what I've read in the letter.
And I thought that someone was going to check with our attorney and find out if it's even legal for us to be turning it over for such a thing.
I think it would be legal. I think what the concern would be, Steve, is that if we set a precedent and do it for the VFW, no matter how much we love the VFW and respect them and appreciate what they would be doing, because I think it's a great idea, it's that if we do it for one, then we would have to do it for all, you know, to not discriminate. And so then if you have some other organization that may not, whether we like it or not, you start giving property away, that would be the caution. And are there other, I don't know, you know, I don't know much about this at all other than this letter, but are there other pieces of property around that would be just as good, if not better, maybe at the King's, in King, at the Veterans Center? I'm just, you know, I don't know.
Steve was right when he said that the Vernus, you wouldn't know Vernus, but it's right next to the bank downtown. The bank finally bought that, and they want to use part of it for parking or something, and then they said that the VFW could probably have the other part.
Oh.
And then they'd have to do a fundraiser to get the money they wanted to do it. The city has also, at one point, offered a part of South Park, to put the memorial at South Park. I have no idea why they turned it down. I'm a member of the VFW, but I only do fundraising. I got so many meetings, I don't go to any other meetings. But whenever they need help with the PAC games, I go there. When the car show's there, I go. I work whenever they need help for work. but I don't go to the meetings, so that's why I didn't read.
Steve. Pat, yes?
How big of a piece of property are they requesting?
1 acre.
And what would be the possibility if they purchased this acre? The minimum amount of land they would want to be with this property, and then we would have that covered.
Well, I think what Pat said, just to repeat it for everybody, if I heard correctly, Pat, is what if the district charged a fee to them, some kind of a reasonable fee, so that, you know, we don't set that precedent? And it would probably be the same, maybe, you know, what if another group that, whether we supported them or not, came and wanted to do a similar type of a deal? My question is more to Steve Hackett in regards to, Steve, do you know if the VFW did in fact turn down the offer for South Park or another location?
I don't know.
Maybe they weren't approached. I don't know,
Well, I was at a meeting where I was told that they were offered it. The city's, at a city meeting.
Some city people left too, so.
Yeah,
okay.
so I don't know.
Can I ask a question? What is the goal of the use of our school forest? I mean, I have not seen a learning target on the school forest.
It's underutilized.
Yeah. I mean, I used to use it for statistics. We used to, out here, for collecting data, and I know some of the other rooms, but if we start to build upon it now, we no longer have a school forest.
At the moment, I know it's used for gym classes as well. They go out there for walking the trails or for snowshoeing.
Cross-country events, you know,
Yeah,
for different
cross-country.
areas.
So if we start to develop it, which I don't know if you want to call this develop it, we lose the idea of a school forest. And then you still have to have an easement from the parking lot to make a trail there. And what about insurance? With people now walking on it and walking over there, who's going to be in charge if somebody gets hurt at that monument? Whose insurance policies that fall under?
Probably be the VFWs.
Would?
Yeah.
But because we're donating the land.
Yeah, it would fall under their umbrella.
And I know the VFW, I'm not sure if it's this post or not, but we rent, for post-prom, we have at the VFW hall, that's where we have it. It's a great place to have it, and we've always been appreciative of their help. But again, what you're saying is that, and I agree with you, is we do it for one, then we have to do it for others.
Yeah, I share that concern as well, that, and it has no bearing for me about the value of what they might be suggesting. It's just its policy. I don't think it's a good idea for us to be giving away our property or even selling it necessarily in a place that might otherwise disrupt what other uses might be appropriate for the school district, or saying, we aren't going to give you or sell it to you, but we're going to let you build on our property. So all of those, whether it's selling or allowing someone to build, have concerns about making sure we can apply it to other people, and that we're protecting the school district's use of the properties. I can see where what they're suggesting is designed to complement what our district might be doing in areas. But again, I guess I just go back to the basic question about whether it's good policy for us to give away property. And I don't think it is.
I'm just reading in the second line is what their intention is. Properties, searching for properties to develop a memorial and a park. And it just makes me kind of shake my head because I think one of the beauties of Waupaca is that we have the Veterans Home in King.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is utilized beyond just being a veterans home for our veterans. When I think about the collaboration that our students have, they go there once a month and they read with the veterans and the clients that live there. I think we do have a good connection between the veterans and our school district. So, and I know that campus is beautiful there. So when I hear about a memorial and a park, I wonder if this is going to duplicate something that we already have. I know downtown, there's the veteran memorial that we place wreaths on.
But they're not happy with that. They're not.
So that's not, that they want something in addition to that? Or something to,
The plan was to, once they found this spot, was to start a fundraiser, but they want to find the spot first.
okay.
And once they find this spot, apparently they can determine what can we really put on this spot now. That's my understanding.
And does the VFW, I know they have their own building east of town, but are they based out of the Veterans Home, or they're their own entity?
They're at the building
Out there, okay. So I wonder if more can be done in conjunction with the Veterans Home, if a memorial could be placed there, or if some of that property could go. I mean, it would make sense. We have that huge resource right in our backyard. I don't know why.
I think they want one in Waupaca, that's what it is.
Okay.
Steve, I've seen that one for the Korean War up in Clover. Matter of fact, I just walked back there last weekend, and I was in there for like a half hour, just reading all the names and whatnot. So do I think it's that Waupaca needs something of that? I say yes, just because looking at the history of what was there. But again, it has nothing to do with that. It has the policy of giving away school land, and especially the school forest. You know, I'm a big advocate yet of getting more and more of the classes out there to use what we have. It's pretty dynamic out there. We have pine forest, then it goes into more of the deciduous trees, of the leafing trees, and then also we have a marsh out there. We have a prairie right out here. There's so much out here and so diverse that we're going to, hopefully, I think you're going to start to see, as Mark indicated, more and more of our teachers hopefully are going to be utilizing that. There's a lot out there that we have that we need to use in our classrooms and get the kids out there and using it. But if we built this, I mean, it'd be something neat, but it'd be cement in our school forest.
What I should be doing is going to some of those meetings.
Yeah.
But I told them when I joined the VFW that I wasn't going to go there. So.
I just want to make sure that they understand that we definitely respect our veterans.
Totally
and
respect
do
them.
everything for them, but it's just the president of another group coming in and asking for that. Just as I'm going to bring it up, just as the Fund 80 idea. You know, it's asking for money from us, and now we're asking for land from us. You know, I'm kind of, it's not equating equal, but, you know.
I think so too. And I think your point and their point of having it in the city would be awesome. Because I think this is too close to the Veterans Home, and I think it would be nice to have it in downtown Waupaca.
I agree. I will be glad to make a call
And again,
Betty,
totally honor our
Can
veterans.
you hear me, Betty?
Yep.
Yes?
Betty, maybe down the road, the request could come back to the board with some kind of a workup in terms of what it might look like. Maybe it could be very eco-friendly to go and, coexist with the forest. I don't know that, but at this point, it would seem to me that it'd be pretty hard to make a decision if we don't really know what's going to be on.
Right.
Pat, I think, for me personally, what it looks like isn't going to make a difference. It really is for me, whether or not I think it's a good policy for us to be giving away our property, and I simply don't. So I would be reluctant, from my perspective, to ask anybody to invest time in designing something for a space that I'm not wanting to support giving away or giving access to.
And another thing that just popped into my mind, in relation to a memorial that honors our veterans, I would think we would want the biggest exposure that we can to make the largest exposure to our people. Downtown Waupaca, or someplace close to downtown Waupaca, has the largest group of people coming into our community, I think, that would see it. Like you mentioned, you're from out of town, but you saw the one in Plover. Which would be awesome for all the people that use downtown Waupaca in the summer, all our tourists and things like that. I think if it was located out at the edge of our forest, it's not going to be easily accessible, and people wouldn't know about it as much. People that are coming into our community, tourists or whatever, wouldn't have that opportunity. Whereas if you see something like that in a downtown area, it's noteworthy, and you stop and you pay honor to whatever is being memorialized or whomever is being memorialized. So I'm looking at it from their point of view, that I think it would be better used that in an area downtown. Plus, from our point of view, I agree with you, Sandy. We can't, if we do it for one, we have to do it all for all, because they're all worthy causes.
There are a lot.
Yes, yes.
Do you want to make a motion?
We have to make a motion?
So,
No.
who's
It depends
on the
on,
committee?
we could make a negative motion. I've gotten information about that from Ron. If it really would support giving a response to the VFW so that they're clear about whether we're saying yes or no, and not having it die for lack of a motion or lack of a second. So I'm going to give that a shot. And it would be to express appreciation for the work that the VFW does, and for the proposal that they have provided, but that we decline their request on the basis of not wanting to establish a policy that would, a precedent that would suggest a policy that we would give away property that belongs to the school district. And part of this is the taxpayers have supported the purchase of this property for a very specific purpose. And while the VFW has outlined the connection that they want to establish, and I'm not suggesting this all be part of the motion, I guess it's more part of the discussion. Anyway, so I'm suggesting that I'm making a motion that we thank them for approaching us, and that we say no to the request.
I'll second it.
Ron, could you just repeat the motion?
I'll do my best, Pat.
Sorry.
Do you have an hour?
Have some discussion there.
This is kind of paraphrasing, and I'm sure Carol took better notes than me, but I have the gist of it. To say thank you for approaching us. We appreciate the work that you do and the proposal that you put together, but we respectfully decline the request on the basis of not wanting to establish policy or precedent that suggests we would give away property because the taxpayers have approved our property purchases for specific reasons, and we respectfully say we've declined your request.
Good job, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so.
We had a second.
Seconded, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. It's unanimous.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Well, not meeting my goals for our timeline, are we?
Yeah, whatever. Can I get a cookie?
Okay, while Betty gets a cookie, we'll move on to monitoring, staff recruitment and retention. We have a memo dated 9/5 from Mr. Flyden with regard to, do I have the right one? Yes, staff recruitment and retention.
So you have the memo in front of you, and I just wanted to kind of expand upon that memo just a little bit here. Obviously, as implied in our district mission, we're committed to excellence in education, and we're always looking to improve. And that means every time we have an opening in our positions, we want to make sure we have the best for our community. And knowing that the heart and soul of our ability to meet our expectations comes from our staff that we hire. We need to recruit, hire, and retain the best staff, of course. As noted in the memo that I sent you last week, over the past 2 years, we have hired 45 teachers, 1 nurse, and 6 administrators. This means currently that 25% of our teachers and 46% of our administrators are new to the school district of Waupaca in the last 2 years. And ensuring that we've got the best for our students, that's what really the heart of this presentation is. So I'll just take a few minutes of your time to provide you with some other information and let you know what we're doing to ensure that. So we're blessed. In the school district of Waupaca, we hire based off the best candidates, not the cheapest. Oftentimes in school districts, when an experienced person retires, that some of the directions given to those in the hiring committee are, we're looking to save money here. We've never suggested that to any of our interview teams. We're always, who is the best candidate for the positions? And so that's what I'm saying here. We're really in a good position to be able to do that. Working with teacher interview teams that I've been a part of, I remind them that this is about $1 million decision that we're going to recommend. When you figure in the average salary of a teacher and how many years we hope to have them commit to our school district. So please don't take your participation in this opportunity lightly. And I know they don't, and they appreciate being a member of those committees. And on those committees, we'll talk about a little bit more who else is there. Bottom line is we work hard to make the right decisions. It takes time to go through that interview process, the application, the screening, the background checks, the recommendations, all that sort of stuff. So we want to make sure that we have the best here in front of our students. And how do we go about doing that? Well, it starts with a high quality job description. I'm not going to open that up for you, but we've changed that over the course of the year to better align with our mission, vision, priorities, and our committed to excellence in education framework. So there's a better alignment in seeking teachers of students first, content second. Again, applicants get reviewed generally by the principal and sometimes by committees to ensure that those we bring in for the interview we believe are going to be the right fit for the needs. There's a process of interview question selection and or creation. We have a bank of interview questions that are shared between all the administrators and of course interview team members. Generally consists of teachers, students, and parents to ensure that we've got shared leadership and ownership in some of these decisions. Now, these teams are told right off the bat that they're a recommendation committee and that the board has the final say and approval of hiring somebody, but so far, knock on wood, we've had very good recommendation success. So they know that and they understand that and they get it, but it's a great opportunity. And of course, every time you go through this process, it's a powerful opportunity of reflection and communication, because those people who are on that committee get to see the work that goes in behind that. They get to see the high quality people that have applied for the position, who are interviewing for the position, and what we're looking for. And so it's an intense opportunity, but hopefully it's a fun opportunity. I enjoy that when I'm with the team of the committee. So some of the things that we've done, we've created promotional flyers. We've got a district flyer. We've got flyers for the school. We've even done promotional videos in some of the harder to recruit areas, so that when people are online, they can see what we're doing. I've attended a job fair before. We put together a video for that. Our social media presence, when you think about hiring today's generations, what are they looking for and how are they gathering their information on us? So if we're not out constantly promoting, whether we have a position available or not, then we're missing the boat. So we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to attract the best people. We're not alone in our commitment to this and our acknowledgement that we have a lot of staff turnover. Here's just 3 articles within the last month from different areas talking about struggles of schools and what they're trying to do to retain and attract teachers. The last one is a brief by the DPI from the school year 2016 and 2017 and their thoughts as well. And again, that was referenced for you in your memo. Just background information that says, this isn't coming from left field that we're talking about this today. So next thing I want to get into is taking a look at who we are here in our school district of Waupaca by providing you with some facts and figures. So I got to give credit to Carol and Colleen for working with me to provide me the data to put the next several slides together. So average age of our workforce in years, I kind of broke it down into 6 work groups there for you. I didn't do the 7, I didn't do the board. I would say if you guys
Good.
Then this is an experience histogram. So this looks at, out of all of our school district of Waupaca employees, how many years do they have, quote unquote, on the job? And of course, it's broken down in percentages. And it's very similar for just teachers as well. That's why I left it for all school district of Waupaca employees. And I should say, obviously, you have a copy of this presentation in front of you. I apologize, it's a little small, but you do have a copy of it for your reference there. And then I took the liberty of looking at it from individual building perspectives. And hopefully our math-minded folks here appreciate my vocabulary of mean, median, and mode. It's a nice way to demonstrate where we're at as far as overall age of staff. So you can see each line, give or take, represents a staff member, and 0, 20, 40, 60 would be years. The green is the median or the average age of the staff of the chain of CDC, just over 41 years. If you take all of their teachers, line them up from youngest to oldest, that middle number is 39. The most frequent number that occurs is 59. I think it'll probably happen 2 or 3 times out of that staff. Then I also did the same thing for the WLC. I should tell you, if you're trying to compare between the charts, average age of our teachers is around that 42 to 43 year mark. It really isn't that different across buildings. There you can see where's the median of 43 there, which is a little bit more than at the WLS or at the chain of the CEC. But the mode is a couple of years younger. The middle school, same information there, same data I should say. And at the high school. You know, when I look at this data, we can look at it from all sorts of ways and whatnot, but I think what's really important to understand is that we do have an experienced staff. And we have a staff that, you know, I think there's 9 educators that are over the age, or 60 years or older, that are still with us. And what does that say about their love and commitment to our community and for our kiddos? And, you know, the age of our staff is, we're a little bit older. You can see we have some different trends there. And so recruitment, retention, turnovers, we may not have had to deal with it very significantly in the last 10 years, maybe up until the last several years. But if you look at the data and the age of our staff, we're going to continue with that trend because our staff is getting older. And the other thing generationally is that younger staffs younger individuals, younger professionals, tend not to commit to the same profession or the same company as long as what we see on the far right of this slide is the older generations. And that's just reality of it. And this year we lost 2 teachers to teaching overseas, right? And so younger teachers want that flexibility and those freedoms and want to feel different things than some of the older generations. So we've got to be mindful of that. And so the last couple slides, we're just giving you that snapshot of the age of our staff. So the next thing I want to talk about is well, how do we continue to stay competitive in recruiting and retaining and hiring the best staff? And I think first and foremost, we have an amazing staff in our district. They are our best sellers of our district. And so it's delightful to have that in our back pocket right off the start, that we have an amazing staff. We need to continue with that. We need to continue that alignment of our mission, vision, priorities, and our commitment to excellence framework with our mission and our structures. So as an example of that, you know, we talk about professional learning communities, we talk about the growth that we're heading down. We have to make sure that we're aligning the time for those things to happen from a teacher standpoint. You just can't keep adding more expectations and more responsibilities, more outcomes, whatever you want to say, without alignment of our structure. So something like early release Wednesdays is something tangible that says, not only do we want this, but here we're aligning our structures to help achieve that. So I think it's really important. Stay competitive with our salary and benefits. We look at that all the time. Other things that we have out there are credit reimbursement, which not a whole lot of districts continue with, but we do, and I think that is a good benefit for our staff. The early retirement benefits that we do have, again, great things for those that stick with the district. notification incentive to those early retirees as well. So I think there's some little things that we do have in place for those that are more on that further end of the spectrum as well. Some other things. We're working on more getting things into writing. Those who were with me when I was the principal know, where is this in writing? It was a famous quote that I had, because a lot of things, because we haven't had so much change, so some things were maybe missed. And so we're working hard to get those critical documents in writing so that through conversations and through changes, people have something tangible to walk away with for that stuff. So those are just some examples there. Mentor training and new staff onboarding, we kind of talked about that earlier. That is a piece that we have to continue to look at and grow. Support for our new staff who are coaching, whether it's the tech coaches or our multi-level systems of support coaches. They're incredible. When you look at what the new generation is asking for, it's that support to make sure that they're doing the right things and so forth. Providing high-quality professional development opportunities, whether it's at the First Institute or credit reimbursement, July First, bringing in people, sending people places, that professional development, that ongoing part, and especially those early release Wednesdays, is a huge part of it, because we all want to make sure we're doing the best. Exit surveys, we did exit surveys last year, probably for the first time kind of formally. 25% of the respondents of those who left came back with some information. So we're working on setting those cultural things up and utilizing that information to ensure that we're making adjustments based off that information. Keep our community informed of what we're doing, because that says a lot to those people who are interviewing us as much as we're interviewing them. When they can see the tangible support that the community gives us, such as not going to referendums, such as comment fields, such as the early release Wednesdays. Those are examples of things that people who are giving our district a look at can see and feel, touch, hear, see. Stay in the business of comprehensive offerings. When you look at all the different opportunities we have for our students and where those opportunities end up and the communication about those opportunities and what gets talked about out in the community, and we're not even always aware of those things, whether it's at the fair or at the state convention or just out and about at the grocery store, those are really huge. And it's hard. Not every school is able to offer such a comprehensive offering, but obviously those types of things will continue to grow our market in the community. Work with our employee groups. We got to make sure that we're listening and working with our employee groups. So one of the examples is, we created that sick bank, so to speak, not too long ago, right? But that came out of conversations and discussions with employee groups to make sure that they're being heard and that they have a voice at the table, right? Employee satisfaction is huge. And one of the things I worked a lot with our new staff is culture. Focus on our culture, focus on our culture, focus on our culture. If we can create good kids who are also academically gifted, that goes a long way versus creating academically good kids who are also nice, right? Like, we want to make sure we find that right balance of, we want to make sure that we're focusing on developing that person, right?
Say that again.
We want to make sure that we're creating good people who are also academically gifted, right? So it's focusing on creating young men and women who have citizenship, who display that responsibility, who celebrate our differences, who know how to access resources when need be. So those are the things that we've just kind of listed is what we have been doing in terms of how do we continue to stay competitive, because you can't just rest on, oh, we're doing all these things, let's just call it a quits and that's good enough. We've had conversations about how do we better onboard our non-teaching staff, right? We got to figure that one out so that they feel comfortable with that, so we don't have a high turnover of, let's say, aides, for example, where it's high turnover. How do we make them feel more part of the community? We spend a lot of resources on onboarding of our teachers. Probably do a better job of our non-teaching staff as well. Survey our new staff a year or 2 years into it. How are things going? What's working? What isn't working? I know our principals do a great job, and they have done a great job. They will continue to do a great job making sure that our new teachers who are new to us this year are feeling comfortable, are part of the community, are part of the culture, have what they need to feel successful. But really that mentoring and that ongoing support can't end after year one. So, follow up some surveys and information. Last year we did a survey for our community and for our staff to see how things were going. And I think that's really important that people have that opportunity to give input as well. promoting Waupaca. Work with our local organizations. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce does a great job for us in supporting our new teachers during that day of the tour, the lunch, the scavenger hunt, and the ongoing support with Rotary, with the Rotary Games. But what else can we do to help attract more people into our community? The way we're going to stay thriving and being successful is if our population stays the same or grows. But we know, parents aren't having as many kids as they used to have, and so student population overall is decreasing. So now it becomes a little more competitive to retain who you have, number one, and two, attract new families. So this is a different part of the world of education that we're in today than we were 5 or 10 years ago. But seeing billboards and radio spots and so forth from districts out there celebrating their communities and what their students can do, that's part of it. But what else can we do to work with law enforcement, who's the sheriff's department in this county seat here in Waupaca, the Foundry, a large employer in the district, right? What do we do to help with, making sure that their new employees and their HR processes are aligned with ours to bring people here? We shouldn't be working in isolation pockets. We've got to work together better on some of those things. The Comet family mindset, right? Ron talked about kind of one of the best hidden gems in the state of Wisconsin is this community. And so how do we get that information out there? How do we celebrate that? How do we make sure our new staff feel as if they're part of a family where we're going to have good days, we're going to have bad days, we're going to have disagreements, but at the end of the day, we support each other, we're in this together, we're aligned as far as what we're going to do day in and day out, and we're together on this. That's kind of that mentality. So that's what we're working towards always. Nothing new, but always something we're working towards. And that's it. Questions?
Very much appreciate your perspective on this and the information that you've imparted. Questions?
I have a comment. Have sat on a committee hiring math teachers and stuff with you, and I'm sure it's carried over with Mike now, because Mike, I didn't have you as a principal, but I told you before, wish I would have stayed another year. Because you treated the individual that was being interviewed with the utmost respect. Your team, we all had input on it. We had good professional discussion. I wouldn't know, I guess everybody that was in those interviews that we interviewed felt very good about, and I think they all probably felt they would have had the job just by the way those interviews went. And I'm just going to give you a kudos that I'm very, very impressed with the way that handled, because I can remember our interviews. I can remember the way I was hired. What do you teach? Math. Good. Okay, you're here. So not that easily, but it just has changed to be such a professional atmosphere, and that's, I think, gives the respect to the profession that we have.
And it sends a huge message even to those people we don't hire.
Yeah.
And so when they go back and they talk, and they're whatever, it sends a great message. So thank you. Great people who are part of those teams.
Very good. All right, thank you very much.
This was great. Thank you.
That brings us to the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and 2 seconds.
I guess we're all changed.
Who was that, Betty or Dale?
You can give it to Mark.
Okay.
Any discussion? Questions? Roll call?
Dale Bell?
Here.
Betty
Yes.
Manning?
Yes.
Sandy Robinson?
Yes.
Mark Polubitsky?
Aye.
Steve Hackett?
Aye.
Pat Fair? Pat?
Aye.
Steve Johnson?
Yes. That I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Second.
Okay, move to adjourn into closed session. Okay, with the motion to move into closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.85 paren 1 paren C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Roll call.
Pat Fair?
Aye.
Steve Hackett?
Aye.
Mark Polubitsky?
Aye.
Sandy Robinson?
Yes.
Betty Mannion?
Yes.
Dale Bell?
Yes.
Steve Johnson?
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone.